This is a John Deere 856 16-row 30 cultivator. We've had multiple John Deere 856, heavy duty, thick bar, probably one of the heavier ones out there. Row units are pretty tight, even after a lot of acres. One of the reasons we like them. We run the 3-shank. This one has the rolling shields. We also have 856 with tunnel shields. We primarily use this one for second pass soybeans, second pass corn. We have a different cultivator set up for first pass. It's a Case IH 1830. Just a steady, good, solid cultivator. Pros and cons of the rolling shields. So this is designed, it runs right where your shovel, the dirt comes off, and it's going to hit this to protect the plant from the dirt folding over onto it. And these just run along. They do kind of break up the ground right next to the row a little bit. If you don't have a lot of trash or a lot of debris, they work pretty good. We also have tunnel shields. The thing I like about tunnel shields is they're longer. They can handle debris better, and then the back shank, they can give you some protection so that, especially if you're going through ground that has a little bit of weed pressure, and we call it slabbing, there's some root structure in the ground, it has a tendency to throw clods over, and sometimes that can roll onto the row. The tunnel shields do a better job of protecting the corn there. You just gotta, mostly the front shovels are closest to the row, so you gotta make sure that the dirt doesn't bury your crop, and that's what they're designed for. This is a Case IH 1830 16-row 30 cultivator. This one we have the long tunnel shields, so it's going to protect the plants for the entire length of the shanks so that dirt doesn't fly onto the plant and bury it. And this one we actually put the finger weeders on. So these are designed, your row is going to run right here when it's flipped over. These little knobs here are your drive, so this goes into the ground, and these go at ground speed. And when these are at ground speed, that means the end of these are going to be faster than ground speed. So they'll give you a little brushing action on right at the base of your plant and get you some weeding right in the row. So these do a very good job of just getting weeding in the row where your shovels can't take care of it. So this is our first pass cultivator. So we try to hit all of our ground with this cultivator first, and then we'll use the John Deere 856 for second pass and through the field. We can also use this one for second or third pass if we get to it, but we pretty much have this one running full time on first pass. We use this cultivator for first pass primarily because of the finger weeders. We're going to get the most action out of these when you have the white hairs coming, so the plant's going to be smaller. That's when we want to really do the weeding in the row. Once your plant gets up to, maybe 12 to 18 to 24 inches, your second or third pass, any weeds in the row, these aren't going to really do much. So you're kind of stuck with what you have then. So we'll use an 856 without finger weeders on it for that. We could use this one, and if we get backed up, we run a lot of acres, so we need to run at least 2 cultivators at a time, but this is primarily our first one because we get the best weeding with the finger weeders, and then we let the other cultivator hit second pass and third pass.
And the cultivators combination of, we have a 12-row John Deere that we run with a finger guidance system, which is just the manual. There's the 2 wands that can feel the row, and then the slide hitch on the 3-point adjusts, which is honestly, in early cultivation, it's pretty ineffective because the plants just aren't physically big enough to trigger the sensors. But once you're at second cultivation, it's really effective for the most part.
Another new tool we've gotten this year is Einbach Chop Star Twin. I was looking to get stuff up in the row early, and that was it. The middles I can come back later. We run a Henniker cultivator, a single sweep design cultivator, and that pretty effectively takes care of stuff later in the season, the row middles. So the reason I didn't get the middles on that Chop Star Twin is so I could run fast. And we can run in crops a few inches high at 6-7 mile an hour, and that's huge to me because when I was growing up cultivating little stuff, 1.5 miles, 2 mile an hour, and terrible job. Residue and or strip cropping we're trying to do. We've done some corn and alfalfa where we waited to take out the middles later. A Lilliston cultivator, a rolling cultivator, I rely on that quite a bit certain years. Other years I might not touch it. Lately I think what we're doing with some of the corn, I think we're going to have a place every year for it.
Yeah, so then we also have tools that might be considered more rescue type weed control, or just trying to limit weeds that set seed or to improve harvestability of a crop. So we have what's called a Miniguzzo weed cutter that can go over a crop and top weeds. In one scenario, we use that actually to deal with a small amount of volunteer rye in an oat crop. So that rye headed out taller than the oats, we could run over it with this weed cutter, top the rye so that we could clean up that oat crop and limit the amount of that rye that ends up at harvest. And then we also have a weed zapper, which we do use in soybeans to zap weeds that are coming up over the soybean canopy and clean those fields up.
We've never used a zapper on our farm. I'm sure at some point we'll go down that route. Our main issue with those is that they're such horsepower hogs that to make it economical on our farm, we'd actually have to buy a bigger tractor. Like, we don't have any tractors that could run a 30-foot. We could run a 6-row machine, but my understanding is you end up going like a mile and a half an hour through a field at full RPMs. Like, it would take a long time doing 6 rows at a time to do 150 acres of corn. And a lot of diesel. So I've never really seen the return on that. And it's really only relevant in soybeans.
It's not like you buy a weed zapper and you can do whatever you want and not do anything else, because I have had that question before. It's a cleanup tool. We've tried playing around with it, using it for some other applications as far as some burn down type of things. And it there's things it can do and things it can't, just like anything else. But it's definitely a higher price tool, but it's pretty easily justified, if you've got enough acres to support it.
The next step would be to move to add a burner, possibly.
We do have a flamer. We haven't used it in a couple of years. It's the right condition. If you're too wet to cultivate and you've got a lot of little foxtail that's, if your corn's here and your foxtail's way down here, it'd be good. If the weeds are too big, you either end up using so much propane or it's ineffective. And there's so much inherent cost because you're burning propane as you go through the field that I've never been all that keen on using it unless we have a perfect opportunity.
Another thing we do is in cover crop scenarios, particularly in clover and alfalfa, we want to keep those fields clean for the subsequent year crop. So we'll inevitably get some weeds coming up with that clover and alfalfa. So we'll be strategically or trying to have good timing with mowing events using a flail mower to go out there and clip those weeds off.
If I've got giant ragweed growing in a fence row that's been there forever, it's probably always going to be there forever. I just won't plant corn for, say, 20 feet and just be able to mow that in the summer, because otherwise I'll always be fighting giant ragweed there. Those rows are never going to make anything, and more than likely I'll just spread it across the field with the combine year after year after year. It's about as easy just not to plant them and mow them as it is to have these other bushels I got to treat differently.
And if you're coming from conventional, you're probably going to have a field cultivator, you're probably going to have a planter. The next step would be to get into AMS or get into GPS. Auto steer, straightness and repeatability of tracks is very important to our farm. We try to run precision. For instance, this year we actually had a problem with the steering controller in one of our planting tractor, and our rows actually have a little squiggle in them. That's not a good thing. So we're going to have to make an adjustment on our weeding so that we don't take our crop out. That gets to be a lot more expensive when you get into the technology piece of it, but you can start off simple. You can take it as far as you're able to take it or want to take it.